Rimuru x Arifureta. Fragments of Soul to be the Strongest by Rimu_Kai. Chapter 19. Fate. The van-like vehicle hummed along the uneven road, its wheels kicking up dust as it raced toward Old Town. The engine growled low as Hajime expertly navigated the vehicle through the rugged terrain. Beside him, Yu and Shay sat closely together, both of them in comfortable silence. Yu occasionally glanced at Hajime, her eyes soft but filled with something deeper, while Shay had a slight smirk on her face as she glanced back and forth between Hajime and the others. In the back seat, Aiko, Nana, Teiko, and a few other students sat, all of them visibly uncomfortable with the new dynamic in the van. Aiko tried her best to avoid eye contact with the others, shifting nervously in her seat. Teiko stared straight ahead, trying to ignore the tension brewing between the passengers. Meanwhile, the two male students exchanged uneasy glances, not sure how to react to the strange, mixed group they found themselves traveling with. Sitting next to them, Rimuru leaned back in his seat with his signature air of arrogance. His long silver hair, now glowing slightly under the sun, swayed with every turn of the van. His crimson eyes gleamed with amusement as he glanced at his surroundings, his presence cold yet undeniably captivating. Shizuku and Elena sat on either side of him, clinging to his arm, each of them giving the other a pointed, irritated glare. They were physically close to Rimuru, their hands resting on his arm and their bodies almost pressed up against him. The tension between the two was palpable as they both fought for his attention, neither willing to let the other have him completely. Tio, the dragon woman, sat next to Shizuku, a knowing smirk on her face. Her long black hair cascaded over her shoulders, framing her seductive expression. She leaned forward slightly, her chest pushing out as she looked Rimuru over, her voice sultry. "Master, you're so handsome. I can't help but be drawn to you." Shizuku's and Alina's faces twisted into frustrated scowls as they both glared at Tio, their jealousy and irritation radiating. But Tio didn't seem to care. She merely smiled wider, her golden eyes flashing with amusement. Rimuru's lips curled into a smug grin. "Tio," he said with a lazy drawl, his voice dripping with amusement, "you have no idea how much you're starting to annoy them. But if it's what you want." He leaned back into the seat, letting his gaze linger on Elena and Shizuku, "Then I'll indulge you." His tone was teasing, seductive even, and both Shizuku and Elena tensed. Their faces flushed with a mix of anger and embarrassment. Hajime glanced over at Rimuru with a raised brow. "So you really think you can just play with their emotions like that, huh?" He chuckled darkly. "You always were this arrogant, weren't you?" Rimuru shifted his gaze back to his younger brother, his grin widening. "And you, Hajime, are no better. Always so serious, so brooding. If only you'd learn to enjoy life a little more." He leaned toward his brother, his voice lowering. "Though, I'll admit, I do have a way to make you stronger." Hajime's ears perked at the mention of power. "HMPH, really? You've been saying that for a while. What does it mean, exactly, gathering 30,000 souls?" Rimuru's eyes gleamed with amusement as he looked out the window, his fingers lightly tapping on the seat beside him. "You'll understand in due time. But let's just say it's a method that will push you beyond your limits. Not that I'm concerned. You'll need it if you want to keep up with me." His voice was teasing, filled with an arrogance that made Hajime's blood boil. Hajime's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightening. "Keep up with you?" He let out a chuckle that sounded more like a growl. "Is that so? You know I'm not about to lose to you." "Oh, I'm certain you won't," Rimuru replied with a sly smile, "but that's only because you haven't experienced everything I can offer yet. It'll be a fun competition between us, don't you think?" Yu and Shay both glanced at each other and then at Hajime. Both of them seemed slightly concerned but didn't speak up immediately. Their reactions were more subdued compared to the others, though it was clear that they were interested in seeing how this conversation would unfold. Aiko, Nana, and Teiko exchanged uneasy glances. Aiko, in particular, appeared tense, her eyes darting nervously between Rimuru and Hajime. She had already seen their power in action, but this rivalry between the brothers was something else. Nana and Teiko, equally unsettled, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Nana kept her gaze on the floor, while Teiko tried to keep her face neutral. Tio, meanwhile, was delighting in the tension. Her gaze lingered on Rimuru's every move, her lips curling up into a slow, seductive smile. "Master," she purred, "you really do know how to capture attention. You have this aura around you." She traced a finger along her lips, her voice almost a whisper. "It's so irresistible. I don't know how you do it." Rimuru didn't even flinch. "It's called confidence, Tio. Something you seem to lack, considering you're all over me like a needy puppy." Tio's eyes flashed with something darker. "Oh, I love when you're cocky, Master. It makes me want you even more." Shizuku and Elena both clenched their fists, their faces burning with a mix of fury and embarrassment. Shizuku was the first to speak up, her voice tight with frustration. "Stop flirting with him." Elena nodded vigorously, though her voice faltered slightly. "He's ours, you understand?" Tio leaned back, a wide grin still on her face. "Oh, don't worry, dear girls. I'm just appreciating what's in front of me. But I'll take what I can get, young master." She turned to Hajime with a playful wink. "Though, if you want to join in, I wouldn't mind." Hajime's eye twitched, and his fingers gripped the steering wheel tighter. "You really need to stop. You're creeping everyone out." Yu, who had been quiet until now, suddenly spoke, her voice tinged with amusement. "Hajime, you should really learn from Rimuru. Be a little more like him, arrogant, confident, and, a little more forward." Hajime turned to look at her, confused. "Like what? Horny all the time and always thinking about yourself?" Shay, who had been silently observing the whole situation, suddenly piped up. "Well, yeah. That's exactly it. You should be more like him, Hajime. Maybe then you wouldn't act so uptight." Aiko, Nana, and Teiko exchanged looks again, bewildered by what was happening. Anna blinked a few times as if trying to make sense of the conversation. Teiko's face turned bright red as she struggled to look anywhere but at the two arguing in the front seats. One of the male students, feeling particularly awkward, leaned toward his friend and whispered, "Are they really talking like this? This is insane." Meanwhile, Tio's eyes sparkled as she turned back to Rimuru. "Master, you truly are something else. Your appearance, your attitude, it's all just so irresistible." She gave him a sultry look, taking in every detail of his androgynous appearance, from his flowing silver hair to his striking red eyes. "How does it feel to be so perfect?" Rimuru simply smirked. "It's nothing special." Tio leaned in closer to him, her voice low and seductive. "I don't know, I find it very special. Just look at you. So calm, so composed, and yet, so powerful." The van continued on its path toward Old Town, the atmosphere inside thick with tension, jealousy, and unspoken desires. The group was nearly there, but the journey wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The town of Ulm finally came into view, its walls standing tall against the vast, open plains surrounding it. The moment their vehicle came to a halt, the shimmering construct of Hajime's transmuted magic vanished into thin air, leaving behind only the dust it had kicked up along the road. Aiko and her students stepped out first, their faces filled with relief, but also worry as the reality of the incoming monster army loomed over them. Rimuru exited next, his long silver hair flowing elegantly behind him, his crimson eyes gleaming with mild amusement as Shizuku and Elena immediately clung to both of his arms. Hajime, Yu, Shay, and Tio followed, with the perverted dragon woman sighing in exaggerated longing. "MMMH, to travel with my two perfect masters, truly, fate is kind," Tio purred, stretching sensually. "I can still feel the warmth of Master Rimuru's presence beside me, and of course, young Master Hajime's dominating aura." Shizuku and Elena both twitched in irritation, tightening their hold on Rimuru, but he merely smirked. "A shame, Tio. That warmth you felt was just the air conditioning. You should get used to being left in the cold." Tio gasped dramatically. "Master, so cruel, but I do not mind, if it is you. I shall embrace the coldness with my entire body, MMN." Hajime rubbed his temples. "You're really beyond saving, you know that?" Yu and Shay only sighed, used to Tio's antics by now. Aiko, trying her best to ignore the strange atmosphere, turned to the leader of Old Town, who had come out to greet them. A burly, middle-aged man with a stern but weary expression. He glanced at the group before Aiko quickly explained the situation. "The monster army is coming," she said firmly. "We have to prepare the town for defense immediately." The leader's eyes widened in alarm before hardening with resolve. Without hesitation, he called upon his guards and began rallying the townspeople, his voice echoing through the streets as he made the grave announcement. The town quickly descended into organized chaos, people rushing to gather weapons, reinforce the gates, and stockpile supplies for the inevitable battle. Meanwhile, Rimuru and Hajime found themselves seated at a long wooden table inside the town hall, alongside Aiko, the town leader, and the rest of their group. "We owe you our thanks," the leader said, bowing his head. "You brought this warning to us, and now we have a fighting chance." "You misunderstand," Rimuru replied lazily, resting his chin on his hand. "We didn't do this out of kindness. We just need souls." Hajime nodded, arms crossed. "We're not here to play heroes. We just happen to be on the same battlefield, that's all." Aiko's expression tightened. "Even so, isn't it right to help people when you can?" Rimuru smirked. "Right and wrong don't mean much to me. I do what benefits me, simple as that." The students who had accompanied Aiko looked visibly shaken by his cold words. Teiko and Nana glanced at each other uneasily, while the two male students swallowed nervously. "Sensei," one of the female students muttered, looking at Aiko with concern. Aiko, however, held her ground. "I know that deep down, you both aren't heartless. Rimuru, Hajime. Please, if not for the town, then for your own honor." Shizuku sighed, shaking her head. "Sensei, you don't get it. These two don't care about honor." Elena smirked. "It's why they're so strong." Yu rested her chin in her palm. "That's why Hajime is mine. He does what he wants, and that's what I love about him." Shay nodded with a bright smile. "Yep, Hajime-san is the best because he doesn't let anything control him, but, maybe a little kindness wouldn't hurt?" Hajime scoffed. "Don't start with that." Meanwhile, Tio exhaled deeply, her face flushed. Masters, so cold, so uncaring, it makes my heart race. My body trembles just imagining the ruthless way you command power." Rimuru rolled his eyes. "Tio, if you get any hornier, we're gonna have to leash you." Yes, please, I shall wear it with pride. I can already imagine Master pulling me along, treating me like the obedient pet I am." Shizuku and Elena both flared with irritation. "Go lust somewhere else, dragon. Seriously, keep your degenerate fantasies to yourself." Tio pouted but obediently leaned back, still sighing dreamily. Rimuru stretched and stood up. "If the talk is over, I'll take a walk." Hajime followed suit. "I'll come with you." Before they could leave, Aiko suddenly stepped forward, looking directly at Hajime. "Please, I'm asking you personally. Help protect this town." The room fell silent. Hajime frowned, staring at Aiko with unreadable eyes before finally sighing. "Aiko-sensei, no matter what I do, no matter what Rimuru does, you'll still be the same teacher, won't you?" Aiko's eyes softened. "Of course, no matter what we become." Aiko nodded firmly. "No matter what." Rimuru let out a small chuckle, his gaze momentarily unreadable. Hajime, after a long pause, sighed again and shrugged. "Fine, there's still time before the battle anyway." Tio suddenly perked up. More time with my masters. Oh, what bliss. Shall we celebrate with a bonding ritual? Perhaps an intimate session where you both ravage my body until I'm left breathless and weak in your arms." Hajime immediately smacked the back of her head. "Shut up, perverted dragon." Rimuru just smirked. "Maybe later." Shizuku and Elena shot him a glare. "No, absolutely not. I swear, Rimuru, if you even consider." Rimuru only laughed, enjoying their jealousy. "What, getting possessive now?" Shizuku flushed, averting her gaze. Shut up." Elena huffed. Just, don't mess around too much." Yu sighed dramatically. "Hajime, why can't you be more like Rimuru?" Hajime narrowed his eyes. "You want me to be arrogant and horny all the time?" Yu simply nodded. "Yes." She clapped her hands. "Honestly, I wouldn't mind. Though I love Hajime-san the way he is, too." Hajime groaned, while Aiko and her students looked utterly overwhelmed by the absurd conversation. Teiko shook her head. I don't know how to process this." Nana crossed her arms. "Are they always like this?" One of the male students mumbled, "This is way beyond me." Aiko just sighed, rubbing her forehead. How did my life become like this? The town leader, unfazed, simply nodded. Well, at least we have strong allies. With that, Rimuru and Hajime walked off, leaving the rest of the group behind. The battle was approaching, but for now, they had time. Aiko let out a heavy sigh, turning toward Shizuku, Elena, Yu, Shay, and Tio, her expression pleading. Shizuku, Elena, Yu, Shay, please, can you convince Rimuru and Hajime to come back with us? Aiko asked, her voice laced with worry. I know they don't want to listen to me, but maybe they'll listen to you. Shizuku, who had once been Aiko's student as well, folded her arms and shook her head. Sorry, sensei. I'm not going to do that. Aiko blinked in surprise. What? But, Shizuku sighed, rubbing the back of her head, a small blush forming on her cheeks. I finally confessed to Rimuru, and I got my chance to be with him. There's no way I'm letting that slip away just to make him listen to you. Elena, standing beside her, smirked and nodded. Same here. I fought too hard to have Rimuru to myself. I'm not about to risk that just because you're worried about him. Aiko's eyes widened. You, Shay. Yu tilted her head and simply said, Hajime is mine. Shay beamed. Yep, I love Hajime-san, so if he wants to go on his own path, I'll follow him. Aiko looked completely deflated. She hadn't expected this level of stubbornness. Shizuku, feeling a little guilty, gave Aiko a small smile. Sensei, why don't you try yourself? Just once. Go and talk to them. Aiko hesitated before nodding. All right, we'll try. Tio, who had been quiet until now, suddenly sighed deeply, her cheeks flushed. MMMMH. To see my master so independent, so strong-willed, I can't help but feel a deep, deep yearning within me. My body trembles at the thought of such dominance. Shizuku groaned. God, please stop. Elena looked disgusted. Seriously, go away. Tio giggled. Foo, jealous, are we? Elena glared at her. Yes. Shizuku nodded. Very. Tio pouted but let out a dramatic sigh. Such cruel mistresses, but such cruelty makes my heart race. Ignoring Tio, Aiko and her students followed the group as they walked toward the open plains, where Rimuru and Hajime stood facing each other. The wind carried a heavy silence between the two brothers as they stood in the open area, the vast plains stretching endlessly behind them. Hajime cracked his neck while Rimuru leaned lazily against a conjured chair made of darkness. So, how are we splitting the monster army? Hajime asked, crossing his arms. Rimuru smirked. Easy. I take all of them. Hajime's eye twitched. Like hell you do. What, afraid I'll wipe them out before you even get started? Rimuru teased. Hajime scoffed. TCH. You wish. I'm taking the bigger half. Bigger half? Rimuru chuckled. Hajime, I don't think you understand math. Hajime's eye twitched again. Says the guy who wants all of them. Rimuru's smirk widened. Exactly, that's proper math. Before anyone could react, Hajime threw a punch. Rimuru casually tilted his head, dodging, before countering with his own punch. Hajime blocked it, the impact sending a shockwave across the area. They began exchanging blows, fists colliding with inhuman force. Dust rose around them, the sheer power of their strikes shaking the ground beneath them. From a distance, Shizuku, Elena, Yu, Shay, and Tio watched the brawl unfold. Shay sighed. Not again. Yu nodded. They always do this. Shizuku crossed her arms. Yeah, I'm used to it by now. Elena smirked. At least it's entertaining. Tio, however, was seeing this for the first time. Her golden eyes gleamed with excitement as she let out a sensual moan. MMMHH. Such raw, masculine energy. Such untamed strength. My heart races. My body trembles. Masters, please, let me join your contest. Shizuku groaned. No. Elena shot Tio a glare. Stay out of this. Meanwhile, Aiko and her students looked completely horrified. Teiko gulped. They're fighting seriously. Nana nodded rapidly. This isn't normal. Are they always like this? Aiko sighed, rubbing her temples. Looks like, yes. Suddenly, Hajime got irritated and pulled out his gun, firing straight at Rimuru. Without even flinching, Rimuru casually raised a hand and caught the bullet between his fingers. Hajime scowled. TCH. Rimuru smirked. You're getting sloppy, little brother. Hajime rolled his eyes. You're just too damn fast. Aiko and her students stood frozen in shock. They just fought like it was nothing, one student muttered. Another student nodded. And he caught a bullet with his fingers. Tio, meanwhile, shuddered in pleasure. Ah, such dominance. Such overwhelming might. Masters, please, do more. Elena sighed. Kill me. Shizuku rubbed her temples. I can't take much more of this. Just then, a sudden burst of energy filled the air. A dark portal opened in the sky, and from it, a man with long purple hair and piercing purple eyes descended, landing on one knee before Rimuru. My lord, the demon spoke reverently. I have completed your request. Aiko and her students gasped. A demon. The students instinctively took a step back, their faces pale. Elena's expression darkened as she stepped forward. Is my father dead? Rimuru turned to the demon. Report. The demon bowed his head lower. I found the man. I did not grant him a swift death. I tortured him until he begged for the release of death. Then, I killed him in the most cruel way imaginable. Elena smirked darkly. Good. Aiko and the students were horrified. He tortured him. That's insane. Aiko looked at Rimuru in disbelief. You ordered this. Rimuru leaned back, looking completely satisfied. Of course. Hajime merely shrugged. I would have done the same. Tio, on the other hand, let out a loud, dramatic moan. Ah, master is so merciless, so dominant. My legs are shaking. Please, let me witness more of your cruel justice. Shizuku groaned. I'm going to kill her. Elena cracked her knuckles. I'll help. You, as usual, didn't react much. I like it. Shay, slightly nervous, scratched her cheek. Well, I guess that's one way to handle things. Aiko looked at her students, who were still frozen in horror. She knew at that moment, she was dealing with beings beyond human understanding. Rimuru smirked at the chaos but turned back to the demon before him. So, anything else? The demon hesitated, then looked up. I have a favor to ask. Rimuru raised an eyebrow. Oh, and what would that be? The demon lowered his head once more. I wish to serve under you. Hajime, you, Shay, Aiko, and the students all froze. What? A demon wants to serve him. Why would he do that? Rimuru tilted his head, amused. And why should I accept? The demon's violet eyes burned with resolve. Because I see potential in you, Lord Rimuru. You are a being beyond mortal limitations, and if I serve you, I know I can grow far stronger than I ever could on my own. Shizuku and Elena watched carefully, their expressions unreadable. Rimuru smirked, his arrogance on full display. HMPH. Smart choice. He leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with power. Very well. From now on, you are my subordinate. Suddenly, a surge of dark purple energy burst from Rimuru's body, wrapping around the kneeling demon like living shadows. The air crackled with sheer power as the magical energy cocooned him, his body shifting within the swirling vortex. When the energy finally dissipated, the demon stood transformed. His ragged robes had been replaced by an elegant butler uniform, black with silver embroidery, perfectly tailored to his refined frame. His aura, once powerful, had now evolved into something monstrous. He opened his eyes, a smirk forming on his lips. Lord Rimuru. Thanks for the name. His voice was smoother, filled with newfound strength. Rimuru, admiring his work, nodded. From now on, your name is Sheen. The moment the name left Rimuru's lips, another wave of dark energy rippled through the air, causing the earth beneath them to tremble. Sheen's presence became even more overwhelming. Hajime narrowed his eyes. That was insane, he just evolved instantly. You and Shay exchanged glances. Shay pouted. How come he gets instant power-ups? That's unfair. You nodded. Rimuru cheats. Aiko and her students, still processing what just happened, looked utterly dumbfounded. He just created a servant. What even is Rimuru? Aiko felt her knees go weak. This isn't normal. Meanwhile, Tio was practically quivering. Ah, master, that display of raw authority, my legs are shaking. Please, take me now, ravish me with that supreme dominance. Shizuku and Elena instantly stepped in front of Rimuru, their glares sharp enough to kill. Shizuku growled. No, Elena crossed her arms, over my dead body. Tio pouted. Such jealous mistresses, but it only makes me want master more. She turned to Hajime, her eyes burning with lust. Young master, if master won't take me, surely you. No, Hajime cut her off immediately, his face deadpan. Tio whimpered dramatically. Ah, rejected so coldly, but it only fuels my desire more. Young master, don't be so cruel. You, unbothered, simply said, no. Shay sighed. Give up already. Rimuru, watching the chaos unfold, simply waved his hand dismissively. Enough of this nonsense. His eyes glowed as he turned to his new servant. Sheen, stay in my shadow for now. Sheen smirked, bowed deeply, and without another word, sank into Rimuru's shadow, disappearing completely. Aiko and her students recoiled. He vanished? What kind of monster is Rimuru? Aiko held her head, feeling an oncoming headache. I don't even know what to say anymore. Rimuru smirked at their reactions before stretching lazily. Well, that's enough excitement for one day. The monster army arrives tomorrow morning, so let's take some rest. Hajime nodded. Finally, something reasonable. Shay clapped her hands. That means dinner, right? I'm starving. Yu nodded. Food is important. Shizuku glanced at Rimuru, her expression softening. You better not be up all night doing something reckless. Elena smirked. Yeah, we need you in top shape for battle. Rimuru leaned in closer, his voice dripping with seductive arrogance. Worried about me, ladies? Shizuku's face turned red. Shish, shut up. Elena looked away. TCH. Idiot. Tio moaned dramatically. Ah, please tease me too, master. Rimuru rolled his eyes. Not now, pervert. Tio pouted. But later. Rimuru smirked. Maybe, if I'm free. Shizuku and Elena both turned sharply. No, you won't. Absolutely not. Hajime sighed, rubbing his temples. This group is insane. You, as always, remained unbothered. Hajime, carry me. Shay pouted. Hajime, carry me too. Hajime sighed. You have legs. Use them. Shay whined. But you get special treatment. You smirked. Yes. As the group slowly walked back toward the town, Rimuru glanced at the sky, a smirk forming on his lips. Tomorrow, another battle awaited. And he was looking forward to it. Midnight. The night was quiet, the sky painted in deep hues of indigo with countless stars twinkling above. A gentle breeze carried the faint sounds of rustling leaves and distant nocturnal creatures. Rimuru and Hajime sat near a low wooden structure, away from the others. The girls had gone to take a bath with Aiko, leaving the two brothers alone. The flickering light of a small lantern cast faint shadows as Hajime methodically cleaned his sniper rifle, his hands moving with practiced precision. Beside him, Rimuru unsheathed his katana, inspecting the darkened blade under the moonlight. Neither of them spoke at first, simply lost in their own thoughts. The comfortable silence stretched for several minutes before Rimuru finally broke it. You've changed, he said, his voice calm yet observant. Hajime didn't look up from his gun. Yeah, Rimuru smirked slightly. You used to be so soft. A pushover. Now, you're all cold and distant. He paused, before chuckling. Well, except when it comes to you and Shay. Hajime scoffed. What about you? You're no saint either. You're acting all arrogant and untouchable these days. Rimuru let out a lazy chuckle. I am untouchable. Or did you forget that I can erase people from existence if I feel like it? He tapped his katana against his shoulder. Face it, little brother, I was always built different. Hajime rolled his eyes. Yeah, keep talking, oh mighty wannabe demon lord. They shared a rare moment of amusement before the sound of soft footsteps approaching drew their attention. Turning toward the noise, they saw Nana walking hesitantly toward them, her expression somewhat nervous. Nana. Hajime raised an eyebrow. Something wrong. She hesitated before speaking. Can I have a word with you? Hajime glanced at Rimuru, who simply shrugged and leaned back lazily against the wooden structure. Go ahead, Hajime said. Nana took a deep breath before nodding. I just wanted to thank you. Hajime frowned. For what? She looked slightly embarrassed, shifting her weight. Before you fell into the labyrinth, you saved me. Hajime's eyes narrowed in confusion. I don't remember that. You probably forgot, she admitted, but back then, when we were attacked, a skeleton monster almost got me. You pushed me out of the way. She clenched her fists. I never got the chance to say it, but, thank you. Rimuru watched with mild interest as Hajime processed her words. The silence lingered for a moment before Nana turned on her heel. I'll be going now, she said softly. But before she could leave, Hajime suddenly spoke. Hey, Nana. She stopped, looking back. Yeah, Hajime sighed. Don't die. Nana's eyes widened slightly. You're strong, Hajime continued, and you're kind. But kindness won't protect you from the dangers in this world. His voice was calm, yet firm. So make sure you stay alive. Nana stared at him for a moment before nodding. I will. Thank you again. With that, she walked away, disappearing into the night. The moment Nana disappeared into the night, Rimuru let out a long whistle, a smug grin spreading across his face. He stretched his arms lazily before turning to Hajime with a knowing look. Well, since when did my little brother become so wise and philosophical? Hajime groaned. Don't start. Rimuru smirked. No, seriously, that was so deep. Stay alive, Nana. You are strong, but kindness won't save you. He chuckled, voice laced with amusement. Where was all this wisdom when you were getting bullied in school? Hajime shot him a glare. Do you want me to shoot you? Rimuru laughed, a smooth and arrogant sound. Relax, I'm just appreciating this rare side of you. He leaned back against the wooden structure. You're growing, Hajime. It's kinda nice to see. Hajime scoffed. TCH. Whatever. The comfortable silence that followed was short-lived. Both of them suddenly felt a presence nearby, an odd sensation creeping over them like someone watching from the shadows. Rimuru sighed. She's behind that tree, isn't she? Hajime rolled his eyes, his tone exasperated. Yeah. Rimuru raised his voice. What do you want, Tio? We know you're there. A loud gasp came from behind the tree, followed by a panicked shuffle. A moment later, Tio burst out, looking slightly embarrassed but mostly dramatic. Young master, you are so cruel to expose me like that. She pressed a hand dramatically to her chest. I was merely waiting for the right moment to approach, yet you call me out like a criminal. Hajime pinched the bridge of his nose. Spying doesn't exactly make you innocent. Rimuru sighed, rubbing his temple. What do you want, Tio? Tio's expression immediately shifted, her golden eyes narrowing with mischief as she strode closer, swaying her hips in an exaggerated manner. She ran a delicate finger along her lips, her voice sultry. The other girls are away, so I thought. She licked her lips. Why not spend this precious time together? Just the three of us. Hajime deadpanned. No. Rimuru smirked. Boring. Tio pouted, playfully stomping a foot. Oh, come now. Do you not see how convenient this is? The ladies are gone, we have the night to ourselves, let us indulge in sinful pleasures. Hajime groaned. Get lost. Rimuru, ever the troublemaker, chuckled. If you want that, go ask Shizuku and Elena for permission. Tio froze. Then, in a dramatic motion, she gasped. That's unfair. They would never allow such a thing. Those two cling to you like starving animals. As Rimuru was about to respond, Tio suddenly leapt behind him, pressing her soft chest against his back. Her arms wrapped around his waist as her fingers trailed down, slipping under his coat while she whispered huskily. But you're a strong man, master. Surely you don't need their permission, Rimuru's face remained completely unimpressed. All right, that's enough. In one swift motion, he grabbed Tio and flipped her onto the ground, pinning her down effortlessly. His knee pressed against her thigh to keep her from squirming, his hands securing her wrists above her head. Tio gasped, her golden eyes clouding with something that could only be described as dangerous levels of excitement. Oh, master. Such dominance. My heart, no, my entire being trembles before you. Rimuru sighed. You're hopeless. Hajime snickered. Yeah, you're gonna die. Rimuru glanced at him. What do you mean? Hajime smirked. You'll see. Just as those words left his mouth, a pair of furious voices rang out. What are you doing? Rimuru and Hajime slowly turned to see Shizuku and Elena standing a few feet away, their expressions dark and unreadable, their arms crossed in a manner that spelled certain doom. Behind them, Yu and Shay stood with very different reactions. Yu sipped her drink, watching the chaos unfold with mild amusement, while Shay was barely holding back her laughter. For a brief moment, there was silence. Then, making the worst possible decision, Tio let out a loud, sensual moan. Oh, master, pin me down harder. The air went dead silent. Hajime stared. Rimuru stared. The girls stared. Even the nocturnal creatures in the distance seemed to freeze. Shizuku's eye twitched. Alina's hands cracked into fists. Rimuru, still pinning Tio to the ground, sighed. Tio, shut up. Shizuku cracked her knuckles. Oh, he's dead. Alina's smile was positively demonic. Kill him, Shizuku. Yu took another sip of her drink. Interesting. Shay wheezed, clutching her stomach from laughter. Tio, completely shameless, looked up at Rimuru with a blissful expression. Master, I love it when you get rough. Hajime took a step back. Yeah, I'm not involved in this. Rimuru sighed. I hate my life. As if that was the final straw, Shizuku lunged first. Rimuru barely had time to move before a katana came flying toward his head, the blade missing his face by a hair's width. He flipped backward, dodging just in time as Elena followed up with a blazing fist strike aimed at his chest. He barely dodged, landing a few feet away with a smirk. Oh, you two seem upset. Shizuku and Elena stood side by side, their eyes glowing with unfiltered rage. Elena cracked her knuckles again. You really think you can just do whatever you want, huh? Shizuku tightened her grip on her sword. We're going to fix that attitude of yours. Rimuru chuckled, resting his katana against his shoulder. You know, if you two wanted to be on top so badly, all you had to do was say so. Both girls lunged at him instantly. Rimuru, despite his absurd strength, had one major weakness: he liked messing with them too much. The next 10 minutes were a blur of chaos. Shizuku nearly sliced his shirt open. Elena drop-kicked him straight through a wooden post. You summoned ice spikes just for fun. Shay, still laughing, shouted, Run, Rimuru, run. Tio, the original cause of this disaster, cheered them on. By the end of it, Rimuru stood bruised, not really, his clothes slightly torn, mostly from dodging, and his usual arrogance replaced with mild amusement. Shizuku and Elena stood victorious, glaring down at him as he leaned against a wall, arms crossed, an infuriating smirk still on his lips. I suppose I deserved that. Elena huffed. Damn right, you did. Shizuku flipped her hair. Next time, think before you act. Rimuru sighed. TCH. Noted. Meanwhile, Hajime, who had simply watched, shook his head. I warned you. Rimuru smirked, rolling his shoulders. Yeah, but hey, it was worth it. Next day, the morning sun stretched lazily across the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and crimson. Wisps of clouds drifted like faint brushstrokes, casting soft shadows over the land. A gentle breeze carried the scent of dewdrops and earth, but any sense of serenity was shattered by the ominous presence marching toward Old Town. A colossal army, 60,000 monsters, stretched across the plains, their deafening roars echoing through the valley. 10 wyverns soared above like black specters, their monstrous wings blotting out portions of the sky as they shrieked menacingly. 20 giants, each towering over trees, stomped forward with earth-shaking force, their massive clubs slamming into the ground with every step. 50 high-level monsters, ranging from demonic ogres to mutated chimeras, surrounded the army, their bloodthirsty eyes locked onto the town. The monstrous tide moved like an unstoppable wave of destruction, hungry for death and chaos. At the town entrance, a large group of people stood in tense anticipation. Aiko Hatayama, revered by the townsfolk as the goddess of the good harvest, stood alongside her students, her delicate hands clenched in anxiety. Before them stood Rimuru Nagumo and Hajime Nagumo, unfazed by the approaching army. Behind them stood Shizuku Yagashi, Elena, Yu, Shay, and Tio, all watching with varying degrees of amusement, curiosity, and boredom. Rimuru smirked. Looks like a big army. Hajime scoffed. What did you expect? It's 60,000. Elena crossed her arms, tilting her head. Seems like overkill. They really sent this many just to die. Shizuku exhaled sharply. I don't like this. Even if we can take them, this kind of battle is going to terrify the townspeople. Yu, resting her head against Hajime's shoulder, glanced at the incoming army with mild disinterest. It's boring if they're too weak. Shay, her bunny ears twitching, grinned. We could let them come closer. Maybe we can scare them away with just our presence. Tio, standing behind Rimuru, let out a soft moan, placing a hand on her cheek. Ooh, A battle of this scale. And yet my master remains completely calm. Ha, how dominant, such power, such arrogance. It sends shivers through my body. Hajime groaned. Tio. Shut up. Rimuru chuckled, turning toward Aiko and her students, who were staring at them with wide eyes, utterly dumbfounded. How are you all so casual about this? One of Aiko's students blurted out, his voice cracking in disbelief. Aiko, her expression torn between fear and concern, took a hesitant step forward. This is a 60,000-strong monster army. How can you all talk so casually? Rimuru tilted his head, then smirked. Oh, don't worry. He turned toward Shizuku and Elena with a playful glint in his eyes. Hey, mind sitting this one out? Hajime and I got this. Shizuku's eyes widened. Wait, what? Elena narrowed her eyes. You're joking, right? You raised an eyebrow, her golden eyes studying Rimuru carefully. Hajime and you, alone. Shay blinked, her ears twitching. Are you sure? I mean, not that I doubt you guys, but… Tio let out another lustful moan. Oh, to take on an entire army with just the two of you, mmh. So reckless, so powerful. Master, you make my heart, and my entire body, tremble. On. Hajime visibly twitched. Goddammit, Tio. Aiko and her students, still in shock, took a step back. What? Just 2 people. Against 60,000. That's impossible. Rimuru chuckled darkly, his crimson eyes glowing. He took a step forward, his aura shifting into something far more menacing. Impossible, he repeated, his voice laced with amusement. No, it's very possible. And there's a simple reason why. The air grew heavier. Rimuru's smirk widened as he spoke the next words. Because I am a demon lord. The crowd gasped. Aiko's students stumbled back, their faces pale. Aiko herself trembled. Demon lord. Murmurs spread through the gathered people. Fear, confusion, and disbelief clashed in their eyes. However, before panic could take hold, Rimuru raised his voice, his tone carrying a commanding presence. Listen, everyone. His voice was smooth yet firm. I am a demon lord. And my brother and I are here to protect this town. We do this because of our teacher, Aiko. Remember this moment. Silence fell. Then, unexpectedly, something shifted in the crowd. Respect. The people of Old Town, initially terrified, now looked toward Aiko, their beloved, goddess of good harvest. And suddenly, they realized, if a demon lord was willing to protect them because of her, Aiko was even more worthy of reverence than they ever thought. Hajime sighed, rubbing the back of his head. Well, that's one way to do it. You studied Rimuru with narrowed eyes. Who are you, really? Shay, wide-eyed, whispered, Demon Lord, that makes so much sense. Shizuku, still in shock, murmured, I knew he was powerful, but a demon lord. Elena, on the other hand, grinned, her eyes flashing with excitement. Oh, I like that. A demon lord. That's hot. Tio, predictably, let out a loud moan. Oh, master. My glorious, almighty master. A demon lord. Ah, please step on me. Hajime gagged. Tio, what the hell? Tio let out a blissful sigh. Ah, young master, don't be jealous. You may be strong, but my master is a true king. Rimuru rolled his shoulders, then snapped his fingers. From his shadow, a black mist swirled before forming into a kneeling figure, a demonic assassin with glowing red eyes. Yes, my lord, the demon intoned. Rimuru smirked. Sheen, find the black mage controlling this army. Don't kill him. Bring him to me. Sheen bowed. As you wish, my lord. In an instant, the demon disappeared into the shadows. Shizuku and Elena exchanged glances. And what do we do? Rimuru smirked. Nothing. Just stay here and enjoy the show. Without another word, black wings erupted from Rimuru's back, massive, demonic wings that exuded an overwhelming presence. The townspeople gasped in awe and terror. Aiko covered her mouth, unable to believe what she was seeing. He's really not human. Her students were equally stunned. This is insane. You stared, fascinated. Impressive. Elena's eyes gleamed. Oh, now that's sexy. Tio, once again, moaned loudly. Oh, master. Take me now. Hajime pinched the bridge of his nose. I hate this group. Then he smirked at Rimuru. Let's see who kills more. Rimuru smirked back. Is that a challenge? Hell yeah. You're on. As they both prepared to annihilate the army, the battle was set to begin. The moment was electric, their auras surging. Without another word, they moved. Boom. A powerful shockwave burst through the air as Rimuru shot toward the sky, his black wings unfurling with a loud snap. The force of his takeoff shattered the ground beneath him, sending debris flying. His speed was instantaneous, cutting through the sky like a dark meteor. Above, the 10 wyverns let out shrill roars, sensing the imminent danger. Their crimson eyes locked onto him, their massive wings flapping as they circled like vultures. The first wyvern dove at him, its maw wide open, revealing razor-sharp fangs. Rimuru didn't stop, he accelerated. A flash of black light, shing. The wyvern's head separated from its body, blood spraying across the sky like a rain of crimson mist. Its massive body tumbled toward the ground, crashing into a formation of monsters below, crushing dozens. The second wyvern opened its mouth, gathering a sphere of burning mana before unleashing a devastating breath attack. Rimuru extended a single hand. Pathetic. The fire attack vanished. He had absorbed it completely. Before the wyvern could react, Rimuru's black katana materialized in his grip. He vanished, only to reappear directly in front of the wyvern. Shing. A single diagonal slash severed the wyvern from shoulder to tail, splitting it in two. The third and fourth wyverns tried to flee, recognizing his overwhelming power. Rimuru simply raised a hand. Beelzebub. A swirling black vortex opened behind him. The wyverns screamed, their bodies being sucked in as if reality itself was devouring them. Within moments, they were gone. The fifth charged at him from behind, but Rimuru twisted midair, grabbed its throat, and squeezed. Crack. Its neck snapped instantly. The rest of the wyverns, now in full panic, tried to fight back. One swung its massive tail. Rimuru caught it with his bare hand and used it to swing the entire creature like a club, smashing two others into paste. Too easy. The last wyvern, desperate, attempted to escape. Rimuru pointed a finger. A single black spear shot forward. The wyvern exploded into chunks of flesh and bone. The sky, once clear, was now stained with blood. As Rimuru dominated the skies, Hajime descended into hell. Boom. The moment he landed, the ground shattered, sending monsters flying in all directions. The first group of ogres lunged at him, weapons raised. Bang, bang, bang. 3 headshots. 3 corpses. A towering behemoth roared, raising its club to crush him. Hajime dodged, slid beneath its legs, and jammed his revolver into its skull. Bang! The bullet tore through its brain, exiting through the top of its skull. The behemoth fell, convulsing. A wave of demonic beasts rushed at him from all sides. Hajime smirked. Bring it. His cross bits deployed, floating around him like metallic angels of death. Fire. A storm of lasers erupted from the cross bits, tearing through hundreds of monsters in seconds. Flesh burned, limbs flew, and the battlefield turned into a massacre. A giant ogre tried to charge at him. Hajime jumped on its shoulder, pressed his revolver to its temple, and fired. The ogre's head exploded like a watermelon. Hajime landed in a crouch, rolling forward and switching weapons. He pulled out Donner and Schlag, twin pistols, and unleashed a hail of bullets. Monsters screamed. He reloaded with a single flick, firing with precision, each bullet finding its mark. A mutant spider-like creature lunged at him from behind. Without looking, Hajime spun his gun backward. Bang! The spider's head vaporized. His movements were relentless, precise, and merciless. He fought like a demon in human skin. After clearing the skies, Rimuru descended, landing gracefully next to Hajime. The battlefield was covered in corpses. The air was thick with the stench of blood and death. Hajime cracked his neck. Took you long enough. Rimuru smirked. Had to clean up the trash in the sky. Figured I'd leave some fun for you. Hajime snorted. Huh. More like you were enjoying yourself too much. Rimuru chuckled. Can you blame me? He licked a drop of blood off his blade, eyes glowing with dark amusement. Hajime raised an eyebrow. You're getting creepy again. Rimuru tilted his head. Am I? The two stood for a moment, surveying the battlefield. Hajime smirked. All right, what's the count? Rimuru grinned. We're at about 1,000 each. Hajime scoffed. Only 2,000. Feels like more. Rimuru stretched his arms. Yeah, Well, still 58,000 left. Hajime sighed. TCH. Looks like we need to pick up the pace. Rimuru grinned wickedly. Then let's get to it, little brother. They both turned toward the ocean of remaining monsters. The real battle was just beginning. The battlefield was an endless sea of flesh, blood, and death. 58,000 monsters still remained. But for Rimuru and Hajime, it was nothing more than a competition. A game between brothers. Rimuru cracked his neck, eyes burning with eerie amusement. His black katana pulsed in his grip, its blade thirsting for more blood. He locked onto the giants. Towering creatures, their muscles thick as steel, their weapons crude yet devastating. Each one stood over 15 meters tall. Rimuru smirked. Let's see how long you can scream. The first charged with a boulder-sized fist, its roar shaking the battlefield. Rimuru vanished. A second later, shing, the giant froze mid-step. Then, its entire left half slid off its right, its body neatly bisected. Blood sprayed like a waterfall, drenching the ground. The other giants hesitated. Rimuru licked his blade. What's wrong? Keep coming. Enraged, 4 more charged at once, weapons raised. Rimuru simply raised his hand. Absolute distortion. Crack. Reality itself bent. The giants screamed, their bodies twisting unnaturally. One's spine snapped backward, folding it in half. Another's arms melted into its torso, its face contorting in agony. The third's legs bent in opposite directions, its body ripping apart. The last one simply imploded, flesh and bone crushed into a bloody marble. The remaining giants stepped back in horror. Rimuru grinned. Not done yet. He appeared above them, his katana dripping with black energy. Blood moon execution. Slick. The sky turned red. Every giant's head suddenly detached from its body, neatly sliced off in an instant. Their corpses collapsed, shaking the earth. Rimuru let out a satisfied breath. What's that? 20, 30. Meanwhile, Hajime was tearing through the high-ranking monsters. Bang, bang, bang. Each bullet exploded heads, tore limbs, and left craters in flesh. A 6-armed beast lunged at him, swords spinning. Hajime sidestepped, pressed honor under its chin. Bang! Its skull evaporated. A hulking demon, 4 meters tall, slammed its fists down. Hajime rolled to the side, aimed his pile bunker, and thump! A massive metal spike pierced through the demon's torso, pinning it to the ground. It screeched in agony. Hajime walked up and emptied a full clip into its face. Bang! 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 By the time he was done, nothing remained of its head. He smirked. Damn, these things drop fast. A beast covered in black scales lunged at him from behind. Hajime simply flipped backward, dodging its strike. Mid-air, he spun his gun. Bang! The bullet shattered the monster's knee. It collapsed, screeching. Hajime stomped its head into the dirt. Pathetic. He fired one last bullet into its skull, finishing the job. Rimuru landed next to Hajime. You done yet? Hajime checked his cross bits, which were still raining laser fire into the horde. Not even close. You. Rimuru cracked his neck. Meh. Just some giants. Too easy. Hajime reloaded his gun. Oh, so how many? Rimuru smirked. I stopped counting after 50. Hajime snorted. Bullshit. Rimuru shrugged. What can I say? They screamed too much. Hajime aimed his gun at another charging monster. TCH. At least I make it quick. Rimuru chuckled. How boring. The pain is the best part. The two brothers turned toward the remaining 52,000 monsters. Their competition had just begun. Rimuru vanished and reappeared in the middle of a crowd of monsters. Die slowly. His katana moved like a blur. Limbs flew. Eyes were gouged out. Monsters screamed, crawling, bleeding. One beast, half its body missing, begged for death. Rimuru grinned. No. He stepped on its throat, crushing it slowly. Its gurgling filled the battlefield. Hajime, meanwhile, was a machine. He moved effortlessly, dodging, weaving, firing shot after shot. A pack of wolves lunged at him. Bang, bang, bang. Each bullet hit their eyes, blinding them. Hajime walked past, his blade slicing their throats. A minotaur swung its axe. Hajime caught it, flipped over, and stabbed its heart. Blood splattered. By the time another hour passed, the two had slaughtered 6,000 more. Hajime wiped the blood off his gun. So, how many? Rimuru stretched. Another 3,000 each. Hajime sighed. Still 52,000 left. Rimuru grinned. At least we're tied now. Hajime scoffed. For now. They turned toward the horde. And then, they charged back in. The battlefield was a blood-soaked wasteland, the air thick with the stench of death. Rimuru and Hajime stood amidst a mountain of corpses, side by side, their clothes stained in monster blood. The monster army had dwindled significantly. Only 40,000 left. And yet, sigh, this is boring. Rimuru lazily swung his katana, flicking off the blood. His eyes glowed with mild disappointment. Hajime raised an eyebrow, still reloading his gun. Excuse me. Rimuru shrugged. Come on, Hajime. This was fun at first, but now. Just weaklings left. There's no challenge. Hajime shot another monster between the eyes without looking. Still, 40,000 is a lot. Rimuru yawned. Yeah, but they're weak. Let's just head back. Hajime sighed, spinning his gun. TCH. Fine. Rimuru smirked. Good boy. Hajime glared. Don't talk to me like I'm one of your women. Rimuru chuckled. You're just jealous you don't get head pats. Before Hajime could retort, Rimuru snapped his fingers. In an instant, they vanished. In a blink, Rimuru and Hajime reappeared next to Shizuku, Elena, Yu, Shay, and Tio. Rimuru smirked. Hey guys, missed me. Shizuku crossed her arms, rolling her eyes. Do you always make an entrance like this? Elena smirked. You get used to it. Yu and Shay immediately ran to Hajime. Hajime. Yu threw herself into his arms, snuggling against him. Shay pouted, grabbing his other arm. Geez, you always leave me behind. Hajime sighed but didn't push them away. We were just having fun. Tio, meanwhile, moaned dramatically as soon as she saw Rimuru. Master, you have returned. Please, shower me with your attention. Punish me for not assisting. Shizuku and Elena twitched. Elena clicked her tongue. Can you not? Shizuku grabbed Rimuru's arm. Rimuru doesn't have time for weird masochists. Elena grabbed his other arm. Exactly. He belongs with us. Rimuru grinned, his voice dropping seductively. Oh, so possessive. I love it. Shizuku turned red but didn't let go. Elena smirked. You're ours, after all. Tio pouted. So unfair, but that is what makes it exciting. Aiko and the other students stared at Rimuru and Hajime in utter disbelief. Teiko trembled. How are you two still alive? A male student swallowed. You killed 1,000 of monsters, and you're bored? A girl paled. Even B-rank monsters are strong, you just slaughtered them. Hajime scoffed. B-rank? That's nothing. Rimuru nodded. Yeah. We were hoping for at least S-rank. Maybe an A-rank boss to spice things up. The students stared. Aiko looked horrified. S-rank? Do you want to die? Hajime smirked. They die first. Rimuru yawned. Exactly. It's only fun if there's a risk. Aiko turned even paler. Shizuku sighed. So what now? There are still monsters left. Rimuru turned to the remaining 40,000 monsters. They were charging toward the town, desperate. He smirked. Now, I show you true gravity magic. You blinked. True gravity? Shade tilted her head. Wait, but the strongest spell is. Rimuru grinned. Nope. That's child's play. Everyone's eyes widened. Hajime raised an eyebrow. What are you planning? Rimuru raised his hand. Let me show you, true despair. He whispered the spell's name. Abyssal collapse. The sky turned black. The air grew thick, pressing down on everything. The monsters froze in place, their bodies unable to move. And then, crack. Their bones snapped. Crack, crack, crack. Their limbs crushed under their own weight. Some monsters' spines shattered, leaving them crawling, screaming. Others collapsed entirely, their bodies flattening like paper under an unseen force. The flying monsters tried to escape, but gravity twisted. They were pulled down violently, their bodies imploding upon impact. One monster begged for mercy, its body crushed inch by inch. Rimuru watched with a cold smile. No mercy. The gravity intensified. Blood burst from their eyes. Organs ruptured. Bones disintegrated. Some screamed for minutes. Some died instantly. Some begged for the pain to end. But it didn't. It only got worse. And then, Silence. Not a single monster remained. Only a crater. The town was safe. Rimuru lowered his hand, satisfied. He turned to you and Shay. Still think your gravity spell was the strongest. You, Shay, Shizuku, and Elena stared in shock. Tio, however. On. Master, such power. Such dominance. Please, crush me next. Shizuku and Elena facepalmed. Hajime sighed. She's worse than usual. Rimuru smirked. She knows what she likes. Tio shivered in delight. Yes. Please use me like a toy, master. Elena grabbed Rimuru's arm. Ignore her. Shizuku did the same. Seriously, she's ruining the mood. Rimuru chuckled. But it's a fun mood. Hajime shook his head. TCH. You really are the worst. Rimuru grinned. Takes one to know one, little brother. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden glow over Old Town as the echoes of battle faded into memory. The air, once thick with the stench of blood and burning flesh, now carried the faint scent of earth and steel. Despite the fear lingering in the eyes of the townspeople, a collective cheer erupted across the streets as Rimuru and Hajime, along with their companions, returned victorious. People crowded around them, gratitude filling their voices as they praised the warriors who had saved their town from complete annihilation. Some still hesitated, stealing wary glances at Rimuru, who had so effortlessly unleashed devastation upon the monster army, but the majority saw him and Hajime as saviors. Thank you so much. One elderly woman sobbed, clutching at Aiko's hands. Without your students, we would have been doomed. Children ran up excitedly, staring in awe at the bloodstained warriors. Some of the younger ones tugged at Shay's sleeves, giggling as she patted their heads, while Yu remained close to Hajime, her crimson eyes indifferent to the attention. Shizuku and Elena, standing near Rimuru, were still exchanging competitive glares with Tio, who, as always, had a sultry smirk on her lips as she leaned ever so slightly toward Rimuru. Master, Tio purred, letting out a soft, almost musical moan as she adjusted her posture. That was quite the spectacular performance. I could watch you crush your enemies forever. Elena clicked her tongue in annoyance. TCH, why do you always have to act so shameless, dragon woman? Shizuku sighed, crossing her arms as she stared at Tio with disapproval. It's almost like she gets off on this. Tio, ever the masochist, smirked knowingly. Could it be that you're jealous, dearest Shizuku? Afraid master will turn his attention away from you. Rimuru chuckled, his violet eyes gleaming with amusement. He leaned toward Shizuku and Elena, his voice laced with a teasing purr. Now, no need to fight. There's enough of me to go around, after all. Shizuku flushed slightly, but she managed to hold her glare. Cocky bastard, she muttered under her breath. Elena, on the other hand, smirked. We'll see who gets your attention, Rimuru. But I'll tell you one thing, I won't lose. Tio sighed dramatically. Foo, such fiery competition. I do love it when beautiful women fight over a man. You, standing beside Hajime, merely glanced at them before turning her gaze to Hajime. Hajime, ignore them. You are mine. Hajime, who was thoroughly used to use possessiveness, simply nodded. Yeah, I know. Shay, bouncing beside him, grabbed his arm. Mine too. Sure. Hajime rolled his eyes but allowed her to cling to him. As the sun dipped lower, signaling the approach of evening, the town slowly returned to its usual rhythm. The people, though still shaken, resumed their daily routines, and the immediate sense of danger had passed. Rimuru, Hajime, and their companions gathered near the entrance of the town, standing with Will and Aiko's group, preparing for their departure. Will looked relieved but also slightly nervous. I truly cannot express my gratitude enough. Without you, I would have died back there. Rimuru shrugged. Yeah, just don't die so easily next time. Aiko, standing beside her students, looked hesitant. Are you sure you won't come back with us? At least to regroup. Hajime shook his head. No point. We have our own journey to continue. Rimuru nodded, stretching his arms. Going back would be a waste of time. Aiko sighed, disappointment clear in her expression. I see, but still, thank you. All of you. As the conversation continued, Rimuru suddenly turned his gaze toward the shadows. His expression shifted, his amusement fading into something more calculating. Sheen. From the darkness, a figure knelt before him. Yes, my lord. Rimuru's gaze remained cold. Did you complete the mission? Shin smirked. Of course, my lord. With a snap of his fingers, another figure was dragged from the shadows, a young man clad in a tattered black mage's robe. The group recognized him immediately. Yukitoshi. Aiko gasped, stepping forward in shock. The boy, one of Aiko's students and a classmate of Rimuru, Hajime, and Shizuku, had a blank expression, his eyes filled with defiance. Yukitoshi, what happened? Aiko demanded. Why are you with them? The boy remained silent, staring at the ground. Hajime narrowed his eyes, resting a hand on his gun. Answer or die. Yukitoshi barely flinched. Nothing happened. Tio's expression darkened. That's the boy who took control over me. Aiko and the other students gasped in shock. Why would you do that? Yukitoshi scoffed. They told me I was better than the hero. That I deserved more. That I wasn't just some useless extra in someone else's story. His eyes flickered with madness. They gave me power. They respected me. Unlike all of you. Rimuru's eyes glowed. And who exactly are they? Yukitoshi grinned, but said nothing. Hajime sighed. TCH. Annoying. Aiko, visibly distressed, stepped forward. Yukitoshi, do you really not see us as your friends? Do you not see me as your teacher? For a moment, there was silence. Then, in a flash of movement, Yukitoshi lunged, grabbing Aiko and pressing a needle against her neck. Sensei, he whispered, his breath ragged. I'll tell you what I want. I want respect. I want power. More than that fake hero. They told me to bring you to them, and they would make me their champion. The true hero. Once they kill you, I'll take your place. A hostage situation. How dull, Rimuru murmured, looking almost bored. Hajime let out a frustrated sigh. This is a mess. Don't move, Yukitoshi snapped. See this needle? It's laced with a deadly poison. If anyone tries to stop me, she dies. Aiko trembled, staring at her student in disbelief. Yukitoshi, how did you fall so far? The other students were frozen in horror. Sensei. Nana cried. Let her go, Yukitoshi. One of the male students pleaded. Shizuku and Elena both had their hands on their weapons, ready to strike. Pathetic, you muttered, unimpressed. She looked disgusted. Taking a hostage. You're really the worst kind of person. Tio, however, let out a small moan. Oh ho, such a pitiful display. Master, shall I break him? Rimuru sighed. No need. This is getting boring. Yukitoshi smirked. You're underestimating me. Rimuru tilted his head. No, you're just not worth taking seriously. A dangerous glint flashed in his eyes as he took a step forward. The air grew heavy, the sheer pressure of his presence suffocating. Yukitoshi gasped as his body refused to move. Let me show you what true power looks like, Rimuru whispered, stepping closer. The tension in the air was thick, an unspoken weight pressing on everyone present. Before anyone could react, a chilling sound echoed through the cavern. Shing! A blade sliced through the silence. All eyes turned to Rimuru. His black katana was drawn, its obsidian blade dripping with thick crimson. Slowly, with an air of casual indifference, he flicked the blood away, letting it stain the cold stone floor. For a moment, confusion rippled through the group. Wait, when did? Shay's voice trailed off, her bunny ears twitching. Then, a strangled gasp. I don't want to die. Yukitoshi's voice trembled, his eyes wide in absolute terror. No one understood his words at first. But then, thud. Bodies dropped. Nana, Teiko, and the other female student collapsed, unconscious. Two of the male students vomited violently, their faces contorted in horror. Aiko stood frozen. Then the truth became clear. Yukitoshi's body was in two. His torso slowly slid apart, a clean diagonal cut from shoulder to hip. Blood gushed in a sickening arc, pooling beneath him. His fingers twitched, mouth opening in a soundless scream. The moment replayed in everyone's mind. That single sword stroke earlier, it wasn't just a warning. It was an execution. Rimuru had already cut him down. Hajime exhaled, his crimson eyes impassive. TCH. Guess it was inevitable. Yu remained emotionless, though she reached for Hajime's hand, squeezing gently. He was foolish. Shay shuddered. It was too fast. I didn't even see Rimuru move. Shizuku and Elena were staring at Rimuru, their expressions unreadable. Shizuku finally muttered, "You didn't hesitate. Elena clenched her fists but said nothing. Tio, on the other hand, shivered. Ooh, master, that coldness, that dominance, ngh. She let out a sensual moan, pressing her thighs together. Truly, you are a cruel, merciless lord, my heart, my body trembles before you. Shizuku's eye twitched. Tio, shut up. Elena, scowling, moved closer to Rimuru, slipping an arm around his. Tio, don't push your luck. Rimuru belongs to us. Shizuku mirrored the motion on Rimuru's other side. Exactly. We don't need a perverted dragon sniffing around him. Rimuru smirked, sliding his arms around their waists. Oh, possessive, are we? His voice dipped into a seductive whisper. I like that. Shizuku's cheeks burned. Elena bit her lip, leaning in further. Tio pouted, crossing her arms. HMPH, how cruel, master, but I shall endure. Meanwhile, Will stood in the background, pale as a ghost. I have to go with them. His legs nearly gave out. A sob broke through the tension. Aiko dropped to her knees, her hands shaking. Yukitoshi. Tears fell freely down her cheeks. He was my student, even here, in this cruel world. I was supposed to protect him. Rimuru's eyes were cold. For your own sake, sensei. If he had lived, he would have caused more problems. You can cry for him all you want, but don't expect me to regret what I did. Aiko's breath hitched. She clenched her fists. But he was still human. Rimuru turned away. That's exactly why he had to die. Hajime summoned his vehicle, its futuristic form appearing with a hum. Let's go. Without hesitation, Rimuru climbed in, pulling Shizuku and Elena onto his lap. The girls didn't protest, instead pressing into him possessively. Shay, Yu, and Tio took their places beside Hajime. Will was practically dragged inside, still trembling. As Hajime revved the engine, Aiko and the remaining students stared after them. Aiko bit her lip. Are you really leaving us behind? Hajime didn't even glance back. You'll be safe. That's enough. And with that, they sped away, leaving the remains of Yukitoshi behind. Shizuku turned to Rimuru. Why did you kill him so quickly? Rimuru leaned back, smirking. Because even if we spared him, he would have caused more trouble later. That kind of person doesn't change. Hajime nodded. Agreed. If we let him live, he'd just come back for revenge. Shay shivered. Still, that was brutal. Yu tilted her head. Unnecessary mercy leads to more suffering. Elena sighed, running a hand over Rimuru's chest. You really are ruthless. I love that. Shizuku sighed, leaning against Rimuru as well. Fine, but don't think I'll always agree with your methods. Rimuru chuckled, pulling both of them closer. Then keep me in check, will you? Tio moaned softly. Such sweet words. Oh, master, please, command me more. Hajime groaned. Tio, shut up. Will, still pale, muttered, I really should have stayed behind. The vehicle sped off into the unknown, leaving blood and memories in its wake. == TOB continued ==